I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you.
Hi, I'm John Wade. The world needs peace.
And I'm Lamar Berry. John, Andrew McWilliams, and I are going to take you literally on the most peace-oriented journey you'll ever be able to go on.
This is a world that works.
Religious holidays, they're all about family, friends, love, and peace. It seems that humankind gets wrapped up in the holidays, whether they be Hanukkah, Ramadan, or Christmas, and everybody gets preoccupied with peace on earth. Therein rests the zillion-dollar question for this episode. What is peace? "31 years ago, the United Nations mandated the creation of the University for Peace." Now let's get this right. A university mandated by the United Nations dedicated to peace. Where is it? Who goes there? What do the students do when they graduate? Let's find out. All aboard. First stop, the campus of the University for Peace. To find UPeace, head south to Costa Rica. Why Costa Rica? Why not? In 1948, they disbanded their armed forces, and for over a half century now, no draft, no army, no international intrigue or border aggression. In the midst of violent and frequently unstable neighboring countries, San Jose, Costa Rica serves as the headquarters for the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. This is a reasonable place to put a University for Peace. Outside of San Jose, you come across this secured compound where college graduates and degreed professionals from around the world pursue a variety of graduate degrees in peace studies.
A career U.S. ambassador under 3 presidents of both parties is Jack Maresca, rector of UPeace.
What we think is that the world needs peace, and the first step in that direction is education for peace. It's not just war and peace, or peace as the alternative to war. Think, for example, of what goes on in cities. This is why we've started a program in urban studies. Cities these days are sometimes very violent, they're filled with drugs and poverty, and more than half of the world's population lives in cities, and they're migrating to cities at the rate of something like 500 per hour. And in some of the world's cities, the poverty is just devastating. Not to mention the violence. Think of the Mexican cities, for example, or big cities in Brazil. So can we say that the people who live in these cities are living in peace? My answer is no. To be at peace, you also need an economic system which will work. I also think about the environment. Here at UPeace, we have a large part of our curriculum is devoted to the environment and its sustainability. That's because mankind will not be able to live in peace very long if we don't pay attention to the sustainability of our environment. Why? Well, because people fight over things. They will fight over water as we start running out of water, and on and on. Well, as you may have noticed since you've been on the campus, there is a kind of special atmosphere out here, partly because we're up in the mountains and it's very green, but also partly because the students are such a varied group from every culture, every country in the world. We have about 70 nationalities on the campus today.
I am a counselor for the students and also for other members of the staff. And it is very interesting to learn the way in which students evolve, after they start studying at UPeace. They become more aware about all the world problems, that are affecting economies in the world. They start having relationships with other students who come from very different countries with, with very different traditions, and sometimes from countries which are considered enemies, political enemies of their own countries. And these people become really attached, to each other. And so when they leave the University for Peace, they are close friends, and they have this will to go to their own countries and do something for that conflict.
My purpose is to go back to Argentina, put in practice my thesis, which is about the new role that we, or at least I want to help with in Argentina for lawyers, going from contention to peace building.
Peace seekers. It's the late 1980s. The costly Soviet-American nuclear arms race heats up. The Soviet Republic's civil infrastructure starves, while its oppressive military complex struggles to keep in step. President Ronald Reagan refers to the USSR as the evil empire. Finally, the Brinksman U.S. president takes command of the show. He flies to Germany. He goes into the actual shadows of the hated, enslaving Berlin Wall. And with the renowned daring of America's Old West, President Ronald Reagan calls out the communist leader. It has reached high noon in the Cold War, and it is a showdown.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. If you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
The world rapidly changed. The wall came down. Eventually, Mikhail Gorbachev was even awarded a Nobel Peace Prize.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
We're out in the middle of nowhere, up in the mountains, as you can see. And here we are with these young students isolated in this green, very idyllic surroundings. And they're all studying very interesting subjects. So they're challenged intellectually. They're all thinking together about these very stimulating ideas. And their professors are with them, trying to bring them into the discussion. So naturally, there is a community of thinking that develops.
Mariela Solis gave us a tour of this glorious 600-acre UPeace campus and reserve. The Memorial Hilltop Garden has a dozen monuments that salute peace-seeking heroes from around the world. Everywhere you turn, bronze statues, busts, plaques, and testimonials cover the landscape of this sprawling campus.
Over there, sometimes you can see the Pacific Ocean when it's really clear.
Students hike up to the peak of this luscious mountain. They spend quality time here studying and talking with newfound friends.
At graduation, they cry, they hug, they jump together, like they cry because they're not going to see each other probably for years.
This is not your typical graduation. These master's students are preparing to head home all over the globe, and they've got some clear and mature goals in mind. Rector Maresca addressed them with some very thoughtful words that they all understood, and those words were from John F. Kennedy.
We seek genuine peace. the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, and the kind that enables women and men and nations to grow and to hope and to build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time. A peace that makes the world safe for diversity.
Nobel moments. Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev had times of serious negotiations, but the relationship evolved to being one of respect and actually friendship.
The importance of this treaty transcends numbers. We have listened to the wisdom in an old Russian maxim. Though my pronunciation may give you difficulty, the maxim is dovyai no provyai. Trust but verify.
На каждой встрече вы это повторяете.
You repeat that at every meeting.
I like it.
In recognition of his significant involvement in the international peace process, Gorbachev was actually awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1990. America is constantly being called upon to be the globe's peacekeeper, pitting this against the pressures of being the world's foremost promoter of democracies and freedom. This is really complicated. And over the years and over the generations, so many presidents have learned how complex and diverse this challenge is. Abraham Lincoln was once quoted as talking about leaving a legacy. And he said, leaving a legacy is like leaving footprints in the sand. And I know a man who's traveling the world leaving his footprints in the sand. He's the United Nations mandated University for Peace's Vice Rector, Amr Abdullah. And he's leaving his footsteps in such wide and diverse countries that are all coming across challenges, protecting freedom, and trying to do it in a most peaceful manner. Let's talk to Amr.
We went to Kyrgyzstan, actually, I think that was about 3 or 4 years ago, to do training for the police on conflict resolution and how to deal with some crisis situations, and especially crisis negotiations. I talked to a couple of our graduates of UPeace who are from Kyrgyzstan, and by then they had returned home. I told them about the idea of doing this. As a matter of fact, they helped me to get funding from OSCE, and we got the money to do a training for the police in Kyrgyzstan. And my students or graduates by then, who themselves were working in different international organizations, supported my work from A to Z, including the translations, including giving me the context, the background, the important issues to focus on working with the police. So their presence with us and the support they gave us on different levels was crucial to producing and delivering a successful workshop.
Peace seekers. Egypt and Israel were bitter enemies. U.S. President Jimmy Carter hosted a peace summit for their leaders where he helped negotiate, going from cabin to cabin.
Through 13 long days at Camp David, we have seen them display determination and vision and flexibility, which was needed to make this agreement come to pass. All of us owe them our gratitude and respect. They know that they will always have my personal admiration.
Gandhi has a special status at UPeace because Gandhi is the father, I would say, of nonviolence, the father of nonviolent struggle, and we have the record of his success in bringing down the colonization of his country and achieving the independence of India. via non-violent methods, and he insisted on the use of non-violence. So that's why his bust is so important, and it means a lot to us at UPeace. The power of non-violence is something that we cannot underestimate. I have seen in the revolution in Egypt in the last few months ago, when people resorted to prayer in the middle of the fighting and the killing and the shooting, and when prayer time came and they stopped to pray, and that confused the police. It made the police force look at those demonstrators and try to make sense of them. They are not shooting back, they are not fighting back, they are praying. They were following Gandhi approaches of how to resist in a non-violent way. As a result, by the end of the day, on that famous day, the 28th of April in Egypt, the police disappeared from the streets. I think the police disappeared from the streets in Egypt because they were morally defeated. They were morally defeated by using non-violence. I was just doing a workshop here in Washington, D.C., and that notion of non-violence was just really compelling. And I have to say, it's challenging to people. When you try to get people to understand that, listen, I am not asking you in a conflict to change your mind or to change your purpose or your goal. I am telling you that your approach to the conflict doesn't have to be violent, like Gandhi has done. Instead, trust in non-violence, and trust that the use of non-violence is going to impact the enemy. It's going to impact it in a way that it will bring him down morally. And if you can do that, you really have achieved a lot.
Nobel moments.
The questions that have brought warfare and bitterness to the Middle East for the last 30 years will not be settled overnight. But we should all recognize the substantial achievements that have been made. One of the agreements that President Sadat and Prime Minister Begin are signing tonight is entitled A Framework for Peace in the Middle East.
On December the 10th, 1978, 3 months after the historic signing of the Camp David Accords, Sadat and Begin were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for their contributions to peace between Egypt and Israel. This peace remains intact today.
We have several graduates of UPeace in Egypt. With the revolution, there were good things and also some difficult things, including the rise of religious violence and sectarian violence between Christians and Muslims. As a result, the group of graduates who formed that association discussed that they wanted to do workshops on religious violence.
We hope that this would be like a pilot program. After that, we would like to make it in different places in all Egypt, hopefully.
What we hope to have is a team. This team, we start with a very limited area, which is Alexandria, and we hope to have this, to build a team, this team of early warners. These people will be taught and will practice and will experience how to be an early warner, how to read the indicators, how to analyze the indicators, how to suggest interventions, to whom should they communicate in order to read all the signs and the indicators and intervene to make sure that violence does not erupt.
So we have people from very different sectors, and we made sure also to keep the balance of Muslim, Christians, gender balance, and people from different areas in Alexandria. We want to start building our country and have an ownership of what's going on.
To come and work at UPeace and make a difference, people have to feel that your heart is into what you're doing.
We take our mandate and our responsibilities here very seriously. We have a responsibility to every culture in the world to ensure that they're all equally dealt with. And all of these things make us think of ourselves as the world's university. That is to say, we are serving the world here.
In Costa Rica, we prepare ourselves to go in the world, to go to the tough places, to go to Egypt to do the religious violence training, to go to Tajikistan to do something about identity, to go to Indonesia, to go to Zambia and work on gender. This is our job, is to take the beauty of what we have in Costa Rica and try our best to transmit it to different places in the world. And to do this with our graduates, because our graduates are infected by UPeace. and they are infected in a positive way, and they are the ones who can help us to make things happen wherever we go.
Well, John, we've followed University for Peace all across the globe. And starting with University for Peace on the concept of peace, what we learned from all their various players, that they really delve into doing a lot more for mankind with things related to a lot of the elements that you espouse in your book, not just peace.
Well, the University for Peace is proving that the elements overlap. Over and over again, they're proving it. In Egypt, they're spiritual harmony, racial harmony, democracy, freedom, peace and security. All those are involved in Egypt right now. That's one thing about the 10 elements. It's not just one at a time. They overlap.
Well, we're back here where it all begins, the spirit of humankind. And I'm not sure whether the University for Peace is ever going to have a graduate win the Nobel Peace Prize. But what I do know is that all of the individual graduates are returning home and in their own respective ways are laying the foundation for building the most important element our world could ever hope to have, peace. A World That Works is produced by investor and philanthropist John E. Wade II, editor of How to Achieve a Heaven on Earth.
I was inspired to conceive 10 elements which I believe will be a part of a heaven on earth. We hope that you're enjoying our series, A World That Works.
For more information or to order How to Achieve a Heaven on Earth by John E. Wade II, go to our website, Heaven on Earth.